Have you ever watched a cup fill, one drop at a time? At first, nothing seems important. A few drops gather at the bottom, there is still plenty of space, so no one pays attention. Then the water rises, slowly, quietly, until one more drop falls, and the cup overflows. People notice the final drop, they blame the moment everything spilled, but that last drop was not the real beginning. It only revealed what had been building for a long time. Old age often feels the same. People imagine it arrives suddenly. One morning, the body feels different. The stairs seem steeper. A familiar name takes longer to remember. The children call less often because their own lives have become full. Work no longer needs you. The house becomes quieter than it used to be, and it can feel as though life changed without warning. But many of the hardest lessons of old age begin much earlier. They begin in ordinary years, when the body still recovers quickly, when friendships are easy to postpone, when silence can be covered with work, noise, and responsibility, when you can still tell yourself, I will deal with that later. Later, you will rest. Later, you will take your health seriously. Later, you will repair the relationship. Later, you will learn how to live with less. Later, you will become calmer, and for a long time. Nothing forces you to change. That is why postponement feels harmless. The cup has not overflowed yet, but the body is learning from the way you treat it. The mind is learning from what you repeat. Relationships are changing through the attention you give and the attention you withhold. A future is being shaped, even when the present still feels normal. This is not meant to frighten you. No one can prepare for every illness. No one can prevent every loss. A careful life is not a guarantee that old age will be gentle, but preparation matters, because there is a difference between facing change with some inner stability and meeting it with nothing but fear. There is a difference between needing help and believing that needing help means your life has lost value. There is a difference between a quiet house and a mind that has never learned how to live inside quiet. You may think old age is still far away, but part of it is already being built in your habits, in your relationships, in the way you speak to yourself, in everything you keep placing inside the word, later one day. Later will become today, and when that day arrives, old age may not show you the person you hope to become. It may show you the life you practiced becoming. Most people think of old age as a place they will reach later. After retirement, after the children are grown, after the busiest years have passed. Until then, they believe they are still outside it. But old age is not waiting at the end of life like a separate country. It is connected to the way you are living now. A man in his 50s wakes before sunrise. Before his feet touch the floor, he reaches for his phone. His back feels stiff. He notices it, then forgets about it once the day becomes busy. He eats quickly, works longer than he intended, cancels dinner with an old friend because something urgent has come up again. By evening, he is tired. The house is quiet, so he turns on the television. Not because he wants to watch anything, he simply does not want to sit with the silence. He tells himself this season will pass. When work becomes easier, he will sleep better. When the pressure is gone, he will take care of his health. When he has more time, he will reconnect with people. When life settles down, he will learn how to be still. But the years he calls temporary are becoming his life, and the habits he assumes he can change whenever he chooses are becoming familiar paths. This is how much of the future is formed. Not through one dramatic decision, through repetition. A person who reacts to every difficulty with anger is teaching the mind to return to anger. Someone who avoids every uncomfortable conversation may become less capable of speaking honestly when honesty matters most. A person who only feels valuable while being useful may struggle deeply when work ends and fewer people ask for help. And someone who cannot tolerate 10 minutes of quiet today may find an empty house much harder to live in later. None of this means your future is already decided. Life is not that simple. People make wise choices and still become ill. They care deeply for others and still experience loneliness. They prepare responsibly and still face events no one could have predicted. Aging is influenced by health, money, family, social conditions, chance, and many things beyond individual control. So this is not a lesson about blame. It is a lesson about direction in Buddhist thought. Life unfolds through causes and conditions. No single cause controls everything. A seed depends on soil, rain, sunlight, and circumstances it cannot command, but what is planted still matters. In the same way, your present actions do not guarantee a particular future. They help create the ground from which that future will grow. If resentment is practiced for years, it becomes easy to reach. If patience is practiced, the mind becomes more familiar with returning to it. If isolation becomes normal, connection may later feel more difficult. If gratitude is practiced honestly, it may remain available even during loss. This is one way of understanding karma without turning it into punishment. Karma is not a hidden judge waiting to reward or condemn you. It is the way repeated intention and action shape a life. What the mind visits often becomes easier to visit again. This matters because old age may reduce some of the distractions that once protected you from yourself. Work may end, the children may no longer need daily care, the body may slow down. The social role that gave structure to life may become smaller. When those things change, the habits underneath them become more visible. A man may discover that he never learned how to rest. A mother may discover that she does not know who she is outside caring for her children. Someone who spent years avoiding grief may find that the grief did not disappear. It simply waited until life became quieter. The ordinary years are important because they are when practice is easiest to overlook. Nothing appears urgent. The body still recovers. The friendships seem available. The relationship feels strong enough to survive another postponed conversation. The mind says, there will be time. Often, there is more time, but not always. And even when time remains, the habit of postponing may become stronger than the desire to begin. Most people do not damage their future through one terrible mistake. More often, it happens through small neglect, a pain ignored again, a call postponed again, another month without rest, another year of saying this is only temporary. The problem is not that one missed walk changes your life, or that one cancelled dinner destroys a friendship. The problem is when temporary behavior becomes permanent without being noticed. This is why awareness must come before change. You do not need to rebuild your entire life today. That promise would probably become another burden. Begin by looking honestly. What do you repeat when you are tired? Where does your mind go when something hurts? What have you been waiting for life to repair on its own? Which relationships receive only the time left over? What do you keep calling temporary, even though it has already lasted for years? These questions are not accusations. They are a way of noticing direction. You may discover that some parts of life are already healthy. Perhaps you have people you trust. Perhaps you care for your body. Perhaps you know how to enjoy quiet. Perhaps you have learned to apologize. Those things matter. They are not small. They are part of the foundation you are carrying forward. You may also notice something that needs attention. Not everything, just one thing. A friendship, a habit, a conversation, a way of treating the body, a fear you keep distracting yourself from. You do not have to solve it all at once. But you do have to stop pretending that today has no effect on tomorrow. The person you will become is being shaped now, in the tone you use with people when you are frustrated, in the food, rest, and movement you give the body, in the relationships you continue to nourish, in the thoughts you repeatedly allow to guide your actions. You are not standing outside old age, waiting to enter it. You are already moving toward it. And wisdom begins by noticing whether the direction still reflects the life you want to live. Because the mind can forget what it has postponed, the body often remembers. The body usually speaks quietly at first. A stiffness in the morning, a pain that disappears after a few minutes, a night of poor sleep, a little less strength than before, a little more effort required for something that once felt easy. Because the change is small, it is easy to ignore. You still get through the day, you still finish the work, you still carry the bags, you still tell yourself, it is probably nothing. Sometimes it really is nothing serious, but sometimes the body has been asking for attention long before the mind is ready to listen. A woman wakes with pain in her lower back. She stands slowly, moves around, and by lunchtime the discomfort is gone. So she continues as usual. She works, cares for the family, lifts what needs to be lifted, sleeps less than she should. And each time the pain returns, she makes the same promise. Later she will rest. Later she will become stronger. Later she will make the appointment. Later, when everyone needs less from her, she will finally care for herself. Years pass. Then one morning, the same movement that once caused mild discomfort stops her completely. She is surprised. It feels sudden, but the body has been carrying the story for a long time. This is not a lesson about blame. Not every illness can be prevented. Not every person has equal access to care. Some people live carefully and still become sick. Others neglect the body and remain strong for many years. Life does not follow a simple moral formula. Health is shaped by biology, environment, work, stress, money, chance, and conditions that may be far beyond personal control. So caring for the body is not a way to guarantee safety. It is a way to stop treating the future body as though it belongs to someone else. Many people only pay attention to the body when it interrupts life. Pain becomes important when work can no longer continue. Fatigue matters when concentration begins to fail. Balance matters after a fall. Strength matters when getting up from a chair becomes difficult. Until then, the body is expected to cooperate, to stay quiet, to carry every burden, to keep working without complaint when it finally slows down. People sometimes say, "My body betrayed me," but perhaps the body did not betray them. Perhaps it simply reached a limit they never wanted to acknowledge. In Buddhist practice, the body is observed as something changing. It grows, heals, ages, weakens, and eventually ends. This reflection is not meant to create disgust. It is meant to create honesty. The body is impermanent, but impermanence does not make care pointless. A flower still needs water, even though it will not bloom forever. A candle still deserves protection, even though the flame will eventually go out. And the body still deserves kindness, even though it cannot remain young. The mistake is not caring for the body. The mistake is demanding that care make the body permanent. That demand creates another kind of suffering. A person exercises, but secretly believes weakness should never arrive. They eat well, but feel betrayed when illness still comes. They try to preserve youth and begin to hate every sign of age. Care becomes fear. Discipline becomes punishment. The body becomes an enemy that must be controlled. A wiser form of care is different, it says. This body is temporary, and while it is here, I will treat it with respect. That respect may look very ordinary. Sleeping enough, moving regularly, maintaining strength, paying attention to balance, seeking care when something does not feel right, making the home safer before a crisis, accepting that an aid may preserve freedom rather than take it away. None of this is dramatic, and that is why it is often postponed. People are more willing to respond to a crisis than to protect what has not yet been lost. There is also a deeper reason many people neglect themselves. They have spent years caring for everyone else. A mother places her children first. A husband cares for a sick partner. A daughter looks after aging parents. A worker gives the strongest years of life to a demanding job. They keep going because someone depends on them. Over time, they begin to believe their own needs are less important. Then one day, they become the person who needs care, and this change can feel humiliating. They say, "I do not want to be a burden." The words may sound practical, but beneath them there is often fear. If I cannot do what I once did, will I still matter if someone has to help me? Will they resent me if the body becomes weak? Will I become less worthy of love? These fears can cause people to hide what is happening. They do not mention the fall. They say the pain is fine. They continue driving when they no longer feel safe. They refuse a walking stick because it makes age visible. They avoid asking for help until a small difficulty becomes a crisis. An older man begins losing his balance. His family suggests a walking aid. He refuses. He does not want to look old. For months he moves carefully, pretending confidence he no longer feels. Then he falls. The injury removes far more independence than the walking aid ever would have. He was trying to protect his image of strength, but in protecting that image, he placed the actual body at risk. This is one of the strange difficulties of aging. Sometimes, accepting a small limitation protects a larger freedom. Using support may allow you to keep walking. Changing the home may allow you to remain there longer. Giving up night driving may preserve the ability to travel safely during the day. Speaking honestly about pain may prevent someone else from having to make decisions during an emergency. Adaptation is not always surrender. Sometimes it is the most practical form of independence. The body changes, that is unavoidable, but the relationship you have with the body can also change. You can stop judging it only by what it produces. You can stop treating rest as failure. You can stop believing that needing care means becoming a burden. A body that needs help is not a failed body. It is a human body, and a person does not lose dignity simply because strength changes. The preparation begins with attention, not obsession, not fear. Attention. What has the body been saying repeatedly? What have you been calling normal? Only because you have learned to tolerate it. What support are you refusing because it makes you feel older? What one action could protect some part of your future freedom? It may be an appointment, a daily walk, a little more sleep, a safer choice, a conversation you have avoided. You do not need to transform everything at once. One honest response is enough to change direction, because one day the body may ask for more help than it does now, and when that day comes, the difficult part may not be the weakness itself. It may be whether you can receive support without believing that support has taken away who you are. There is a sentence many older people learn to say very well. I am fine sometimes. They truly are fine, but sometimes the refrigerator is almost empty. The medicine has run out. The bills have become confusing. A fall happened several days ago, and no one was told. An older mother answers the phone when her daughter calls. She keeps her voice cheerful. She says she has eaten. She says she slept well. She says there is nothing to worry about. Then the call ends, and she sits alone in a house that has become harder to manage. Why does she hide the truth? Perhaps she does not want to interrupt her daughter's life. Perhaps she does not want to cause worry, but there may be another reason. She does not want her daughter to see her as weak. For most of her life, she was the one who helped. She remembered appointments, prepared meals, comforted frightened children, solved problems before anyone else noticed them when the family was uncertain. She tried to remain strong. Being the person others depended on became part of how she understood herself. Now the direction of care is beginning to change, and that change can feel more painful than the help itself. Many people know how to give, they do not know how to receive. Giving feels active, receiving feels exposed. Giving allows a person to feel useful, receiving requires them to admit. There is something I cannot manage alone. For someone who has always been the strong one, that admission can feel like failure. A ride to an appointment may sound like evidence that freedom is disappearing. A meal delivered to the door may feel like proof that daily life is becoming too difficult. Someone checking the medicine may feel less like care and more like supervision. The practical help may be small, but the meaning attached to it can be enormous. This is how pride turns kindness into humiliation. The person offering help may be saying, I care about you. But the person receiving it may hear, you are becoming a burden. That fear can make honesty difficult. A father begins having trouble driving at night. Headlights blur. Distances are harder to judge. He takes familiar roads slowly and avoids unfamiliar ones. His son asks whether driving still feels safe. The father becomes defensive. He says, I have been driving longer than you have been alive. The sentence ends the conversation, but it does not solve the problem. The father is not only protecting his car keys, he is protecting freedom, authority, and the image of the person he has always been. If he admits that night driving has become difficult, he fears the family will begin questioning everything else, his memory, his judgment, his ability to live alone, so he hides one difficulty. because he is afraid that honesty will take away more than he is ready to lose. This fear deserves compassion. Families sometimes move too quickly. Concern can become control. Adult children may speak about an older parent. Instead of speaking with them, they may make plans, change routines, or remove choices. Without listening carefully, safety matters, but dignity also matters. Aging does not erase a person's right to participate in decisions about their own life. Receiving help should not mean disappearing from the conversation. This is where a deeper understanding of independence becomes necessary. Most people imagine independence as doing everything alone, but no one has ever lived that way, even in the strongest years. You depended on people you did not know. Farmers grew the food, workers maintained the roads, doctors treated illness, builders created the home, teachers passed on knowledge. The appearance of complete independence was possible only because so much support remained invisible. Old age does not suddenly create dependence. It makes certain forms of dependence easier to see. Buddhist teaching often points toward interdependence. Nothing exists entirely by itself. A tree depends on soil, rain, light, and air. A human life depends on relationship, care, community, and conditions no individual created alone. Receiving help does not make you less human. It reveals something that has always been true about being human. But there is an important difference between receiving support and surrendering all responsibility. Real independence is not doing everything without assistance. It is remaining honest, involved, and able to express your wishes within the support you receive. You can accept a ride and still choose where you want to go. You can ask someone to organize documents and remain part of every decision. You can use a walking aid and preserve the freedom to keep moving. You can receive help at home without giving another person permission to control every part of your day. The support should protect life. It should not erase the person receiving it. That balance becomes easier when conversations begin early, before crisis, before fear becomes panic, before someone is forced to decide in a hospital corridor, an older father might say. Driving at night has become difficult. I want help finding another way, but I still want to decide where I go. A mother might say, if I ever need more care, please include me in the conversation. Do not speak about me as if I am not in the room. These statements do not surrender dignity. They define it. They teach the family how to help without taking over. The alternative is silence. A parent hides what is happening. The children assume everything is fine. Weeks pass, needs grow, then resentment begins. The parent thinks, if they truly cared, they would notice. But the children cannot see what has been carefully concealed. They hear, I am fine, so they believe it. The parent waits to be understood without speaking. The children wait to be asked. Between those two silences, love begins to feel like neglect. Later, the unspoken need may emerge as anger. You never come. You do not care. I did everything for you. The pain is real, but the anger may be carrying words that were never spoken clearly. I am frightened. I need help. I do not want to lose my place in your life. I need to know that I still matter. These are more vulnerable sentences. They are also more honest. There is no shame in wanting someone to notice. There is no shame in hoping that family will understand. But love becomes less confusing when needs are spoken before disappointment becomes accusation. Preparing for old age includes learning to ask for specific help, not take care of everything. Only, help me with this. A ride, a repair, a difficult form, a conversation with a doctor, a decision that feels too heavy to carry alone. Specific requests preserve more agency than hidden needs followed by resentment. And receiving help also requires another practice. Learning to say thank you without apologizing for existing, without believing that gratitude means you have lost equality. Perhaps you carried other people for years. Perhaps you gave more than anyone remembers. Now someone may carry something for you. Care changes direction. That does not reduce the value of either person. Sometimes you are the hand being offered. Sometimes you are the one reaching for it. Both belong to human life. The role changes, the person remains. So ask yourself, what kind of help would protect my dignity? Who do I trust to listen? What decisions do I want to remain involved in? What difficulty am I hiding because I fear what honesty may change? And can I accept one small form of support before a larger crisis removes the choice? These questions are not signs that old age has defeated you. They are part of preparing wisely, because asking for help early may preserve freedom. Waiting until everything breaks may leave others with no option but to take control. There will always be vulnerability in human life. Money may reduce some of it. Planning may reduce some of it. But nothing can remove it completely. And this is where many people turn toward financial security, hoping that if they save enough, they will never have to feel vulnerable at all. Money becomes the center of many conversations about old age. How much will you need? Where will you live? What will medical care cost? Will your savings last? These are serious questions. Financial insecurity can make aging more difficult. It can limit choices, delay treatment, create dependence, and place pressure on families already carrying their own responsibilities. So preparing financially is not selfish, it is not unspiritual, and it should not be dismissed with comforting words about trusting that everything will somehow work out. But there is another mistake people make. They prepare money for old age without preparing a life to live when old age arrives. A man spends most of his adult life working. He is responsible, careful, disciplined. He saves whenever he can. He rarely takes long vacations. He turns down invitations because there is always more work to finish. When friends ask him to slow down, he smiles and says, "I will have time after retirement." His wife wants to take a short trip. He says they should wait another year. He wants to learn music, but tells himself it would be an unnecessary distraction. He misses birthdays, leaves gatherings early, and keeps promising that all of this sacrifice has a purpose. He is building security. Then retirement arrives. The savings are there. The mortgage is mostly gone. The calendar is suddenly empty. During the first few weeks, he enjoys the rest. He wakes without an alarm, drinks coffee slowly, sits outside in the morning, but after a while, the freedom begins to feel unfamiliar. No one is waiting for him. No problem needs his attention. No decision depends on his approval. The days become wide, and he does not know what to place inside them. For years, he prepared to stop working. He never asked who he would be when work stopped. This is one of the hidden dangers of treating money as the whole plan. Money can support a life. It cannot create one. It can pay for a safer home. It cannot make the home feel connected. It can provide medical care. It cannot remove the fear of losing control. It can pay someone to be present. It cannot guarantee intimacy. It can buy comfort, but not necessarily peace. This does not mean money is unimportant. It means money has a proper place. It is a tool, a powerful one, but still a tool. The problem begins when financial security is expected to solve emotional insecurity. A person may believe, if I have enough, I will not need anyone, but everyone needs someone. Another person may believe, if I save enough, nothing unexpected will frighten me. But uncertainty remains. The body can change, markets can change, families can change, plans can change. No amount of money can make life completely predictable. This is where fear often disguises itself as preparation. The person is not only saving, they are trying to build a wall against uncertainty. The number grows, but the feeling of safety never quite arrives. There is always another amount, another year of work, another reason not to rest yet. The word enough keeps moving further away. Buddhist teaching does not say that money must be rejected. It asks us to look honestly at craving. Craving is not simply wanting more possessions. It is the belief that one more thing, one more achievement, or one more layer of control will finally remove the discomfort of being human, but the discomfort returns. Because the problem was never only the number. It was the expectation placed upon it. A wiser relationship with money includes responsibility, without worship, preparation, without obsession, enough caution to protect the future, and enough awareness not to sacrifice the whole present for a future that may not unfold as imagined. The retired man eventually begins to notice what is missing. Not more money. People, interest, movement, something that gives shape to the day. At first he tries to replace work with more tasks. He organizes the garage, tracks every expense, creates strict schedules, keeps himself busy, but the activity does not solve the emptiness, it only fills the hours. So he begins again in a different way. He calls an old friend. The conversation is awkward at first. Too much time has passed, but they agree to meet. He joins a class where no one knows what position he once held. He becomes a beginner again. He starts walking in the morning, not to achieve a target, but because the air feels good. He learns that a day does not need to be productive in order to have value. This takes time. Rest feels uncomfortable when worth has always been measured through output. Enjoyment can feel irresponsible to someone trained to postpone it, but slowly, a life begins to appear. Not the life he imagined retirement would automatically provide, a life he now has to build. Money helps support it, but attention creates it. Preparing for old age should include financial honesty, knowing what you have, knowing what you owe, understanding what kind of care may be possible. Reducing unnecessary confusion, speaking openly with trusted people, seeking qualified guidance where needed, but the preparation should not stop there. Ask what your days will contain when work is gone. Who will you speak to? Where will you belong? What will make you curious? What will help you feel connected to life when no one is paying you, praising you, or depending on your productivity? Some people arrive in old age with too little money and face real hardship. Others arrive with enough money but no close relationships, no inner practice, no interests beyond consumption, no idea how to live without being busy. Both forms of unpreparedness can create suffering, so save what you reasonably can. Simplify where possible. Protect yourself from avoidable chaos. But do not postpone every meaningful part of life until retirement. Friendships need time before they become strong. A peaceful mind needs practice before silence arrives. Purpose needs roots beyond a job title. And the ability to enjoy an ordinary day cannot always be switched on after decades of neglect. There is another place people often look for security: family, especially children. A person may think, if money cannot protect me from loneliness, my children will. They may never say it aloud, but the expectation begins to grow, and love becomes difficult when it is quietly asked to repay a lifetime of sacrifice. A mother sits near the phone. On a Sunday evening, she does not call first. She tells herself they are probably busy. Her children have work, families, responsibilities of their own. She understands this, at least. She tries to. But each time the screen remains dark. A quiet disappointment grows. She remembers the years when they needed her for everything. The nights she stayed awake beside a fever, the meals she prepared, the money she saved, the plans she changed, the parts of her own life she placed aside because the children came first. She did not keep a record. She did not ask them to sign an agreement. But somewhere inside, an expectation slowly formed. One day, when she became older, they would be there for her in the same way. This hope is not unreasonable. Children should not forget the people who cared for them. Family responsibility matters, gratitude matters, in many cultures. Caring for aging parents is not only practical. It is an expression of love, respect, and belonging. But pain begins when love is asked to fill an agreement that was never spoken clearly. The mother believes, "I gave you my life." The child believes, "You gave me love." Those two sentences sound similar, but they can lead to very different expectations. The child grows up, moves away, builds a family, works long hours, faces difficulties the parent may not fully see. The love remains, but time becomes divided. Attention becomes divided, energy becomes divided. The parent experiences this division as distance. The child experiences the parent's disappointment as pressure. A phone call comes, but it is not long enough. A visit happens, but not often enough. A holiday is spent with another side of the family. A decision is made without asking the parent first. Small disappointments begin gathering. Then one day the parent says, "After everything I have done for you," the child hears something painful. "You will always owe me," usually. This is not what the parent truly means. Beneath the accusation there may be fear. Fear of the quiet house. Fear of becoming less important. Fear that the role which gave life meaning is fading for decades. The parent was needed for food, advice, money, comfort, permission. When children no longer need those things in the same way, the parent may not know where to place all the love that once had a daily purpose. So the love becomes advice, then control, then guilt. The parent asks too many questions, corrects decisions that are no longer theirs to make, treats independence as rejection. They may believe they are protecting the family, but fear may be trying to keep the old relationship from changing. Buddhist wisdom asks us to look carefully at the difference between love and attachment. Love cares about another person's well-being. Attachment often cares about keeping the relationship in a form that makes us feel secure. Love says, "I want you to live fully." Attachment says, "I need you to remain close enough that I do not have to face my fear." This does not make attachment evil. It makes it human. Everyone wants security. Everyone fears being left behind. But when fear begins directing love, both people suffer. The parent feels constantly disappointed. The child feels that every act of care is judged against an invisible debt. The parent wants more closeness, but the pressure makes closeness harder. The child calls less freely because every conversation begins with blame. The parent sees the growing distance and holds on even tighter. This cycle can continue for years. A mother answers the phone and begins with, "You finally remembered me." She hopes the sentence will make the child understand her pain. Instead, the child immediately becomes defensive. The conversation continues, but warmth has already left the room. Now imagine the same mother slowly building a wider life. She contacts an old friend. She begins walking with a neighbor. She joins a local group. She reads, learns, helps someone who also feels alone. Her children do not become less important. They remain deeply loved. But they are no longer the only source of companionship, purpose, and emotional reassurance. Then the phone rings. This time she says, "I am happy to hear your voice." The conversation changes. There is less debt inside it, less fear. The child feels welcome rather than summoned, and perhaps the calls begin to happen more naturally, not because the child was finally forced to care, but because the relationship has room to breathe again. Your children may love you deeply. They may support you, visit you, help with difficult decisions, care for you when the body becomes weak, but they may still be unable to become your whole life. No child can carry every lonely hour, every fear about aging, every unfinished dream, every practical need, every disappointment, every reason for getting out of bed. That is too much weight for one relationship. Even a loving relationship can bend beneath it. Preparing for old age means building support in more than one direction. Family, friendship, community, spiritual practice, daily routine, interests that remain meaningful even when no one else is available, the ability to enjoy your own company, the courage to ask for care without demanding that one person provide everything. It also means speaking honestly before expectation turns into resentment. You might say, "I hope we can remain close as I grow older. I may need help in the future. I want us to discuss what is realistic. I do not want either of us to live inside guilt." These conversations may feel uncomfortable, but they are kinder than silence. Silence allows each person to build a different future in their imagination. The parent imagines constant support. The child imagines occasional help. Years later, both feel betrayed by promises that were never actually made. Clear love is easier to carry than hidden obligation. This does not mean accepting neglect. Some adult children do avoid responsibility. Some families abandon older people who genuinely need care. Spiritual language should never be used to excuse cruelty, but there is a difference between asking for reasonable care and asking another person to become the answer to every emptiness in your life. Ask yourself, if my children were busy for several weeks, what would remain? Would there be someone else I could call? Would there be a place where I belonged? Would my days still have shape? Would I know how to comfort myself without immediately interpreting their absence as proof that I am unloved? These questions are not meant to push family away. They are meant to protect love from carrying more than it can bear. Your children can walk beside you. They can be part of your old age. They may become one of its greatest sources of support. But they should not have to become the life you never built outside of them. And when children no longer need you in the same way, a deeper question often appears. If your value was built around being needed, who are you when the world begins asking less from you? There comes a time when the world begins asking less from you. At first, this can feel like freedom. No alarm before sunrise, no urgent messages, no one waiting for your answer before the day can continue. For years, you may have dreamed of this quiet. You may have said, one day, I will finally have time for myself. Then that day arrives and the quiet feels different than you expected. A man wakes on his first Monday after retirement for nearly 40 years. Monday had a shape. He knew where to go, what to wear, who needed him, what problem was waiting to be solved. Now, the morning stretches in front of him. There is nowhere he must be. No one calls, no one asks for his opinion. He makes coffee, sits down and realizes he does not know what the day is for. At first, he enjoys the rest. Then the weeks pass. The company continues without him. Someone else sits in his chair. Someone else signs the documents. The people who once called every day call less often. His knowledge has not disappeared. His experience has not disappeared. But the role that made those things visible is gone, and a difficult feeling begins to rise. It is not only boredom, it is the fear of becoming invisible. Many people do not fear old age itself. They fear entering a room and no longer being noticed. They fear speaking and no longer being heard. They fear that the world has moved forward while they are still carrying the memory of who they used to be. This fear is not always vanity. Often it is grief. A person may spend decades knowing themselves through what they provide. The father who fixes every problem, the mother everyone calls, the manager whose approval matters, the teacher whose words shape a room, the worker whose skill cannot easily be replaced. Being useful becomes proof of worth. Then usefulness changes. The children begin making decisions without asking. Younger workers do things differently. Technology changes. The family learns how to function without constant guidance, and the person begins to wonder, if no one needs what I know, do I still matter? That question can quietly change behavior. A person may begin correcting everyone, not because every correction is necessary, but because being right still creates a feeling of importance. They may repeat old achievements, not because they want applause, but because the past is where they still feel most visible. They may criticize younger people, reject new ideas, or insist that everything must be done their way. From the outside, this can look like stubbornness, but sometimes it is fear trying to protect a disappearing identity. The fear says, do not let them forget who you were. The problem is that demanding recognition often pushes people further away. The person feels ignored, so they speak more forcefully. Others feel controlled, so they create distance. That distance confirms the person's fear, and the fear becomes louder. Buddhist teaching offers another way to look at identity. You are not only one fixed role. You were never only your job, never only your title, never only the person others depended on. Those roles were real, they mattered, they shaped your life, but they were never the whole of you. The child became an adult. The beginner became experienced. The parent watched the child grow. The worker became a leader. Then the leader stepped away. Change did not suddenly begin in old age. You have been changing from the first day of life. The suffering grows when the mind says, I must remain the person I was, or I am no one. But perhaps losing a role does not mean losing yourself. Perhaps it creates space to discover the parts of you that never had time to speak. The part that wanted to create, but was always too busy. The part that wanted to learn without needing a reward. The part that wanted to serve without being in charge. The part that wanted to sit with another person without solving anything. A life can still carry meaning, even when fewer people depend on it. Meaning may become quieter, less visible, less rewarded, but not less real. An older woman begins volunteering at a small community center. No one there knows what position she once held. No one asks about her salary. She helps prepare tea. listens to people who feel alone, teaches a younger woman a skill she learned decades earlier. There is no applause, no title, no authority, but she returns home feeling connected, not because she controlled the room, but because she was present inside it. This is the difference between importance and meaning. Importance often depends on being seen. Meaning can exist even when no one is watching. Importance asks, how many people need me? Meaning asks, how honestly am I living? Importance fears replacement. Meaning can be shared. Preparing for old age means building identity wider than productivity. It means allowing yourself to remain curious, to learn, to mentor without demanding obedience, to offer help without making others feel small, to let younger people do things differently, to create, to pray, to meditate, to care for a garden, to join a community, to become available to life, without requiring life to constantly prove your value. This does not mean pretending that retirement is easy. A chapter has ended. Some doors may not reopen. Some kinds of recognition may never return. That loss deserves to be felt. But the end of one role is not the end of human worth. You do not become meaningless because the phone rings less often. You do not disappear because someone else now does the work you once did. You are still capable of attention. Compassion, wisdom, presence and love. Ask yourself, who am I when I am not producing? Can I feel valuable without being necessary? Can I share what I know without requiring others to follow my way? Can I let a new version of myself appear without treating the old one as the only version worth respecting? These questions do not erase the past. They stop the past from becoming a prison, because one day the titles may fall away, the responsibilities may become lighter, the world may grow quieter. And when that happens, the mind you built beneath every role will become much easier to hear. For some people, that quiet becomes peace. For others, it becomes the place where loneliness finally speaks. Loneliness does not always begin when someone leaves. Sometimes it begins while the house is still full, while family members still pass through the same rooms, while meals are still shared, while conversations still happen every day. A person can live beside others and still feel unseen. They can smile during a family gathering, answer every polite question, and return home with the feeling that no one truly knows what is happening inside them. This is why loneliness is not only the absence of people, it is the absence of connection. And connection requires more than physical presence. It requires attention, honesty, listening, the willingness to speak, and the willingness to be known. An older man sits alone in his living room after dinner. The television is on, but he is not watching. The sound fills the space. That is all he needs from it: noise. Something to keep the room from feeling too quiet. He changes the channel, looks at his phone, walks into the kitchen, then returns to the same chair. He tells himself he enjoys living alone. Perhaps part of him does, but another part is waiting. Waiting for a call. Waiting for someone to ask how he is. Waiting for proof that he still exists in another person's thoughts. He could call someone, but he does not. He thinks, if they cared, they would call me. Somewhere else, an old friend may be thinking exactly the same thing. Two people miss each other. Two people feel forgotten, and both remain silent because reaching out feels too vulnerable. Pride does not always look strong. Sometimes it looks like waiting. Waiting to be remembered, waiting to be invited, waiting for another person to make the first move. As the waiting continues, distance grows later. That distance may be called abandonment. Loneliness often deepens through the stories the mind repeats. No one cares. No one understands me. I am no longer important. People only remember me when they need something. Some of these thoughts may come from real experiences. Families do become busy. Friends do drift away. People do neglect one another. Loss is real, but sometimes the story becomes so familiar that every silence begins to mean the same thing. A delayed reply becomes rejection. A short visit becomes indifference. Busy week becomes proof that love has disappeared. The mind starts collecting evidence for the fear it already carries, and the more certain a person becomes that no one cares, the less willing they are to reach out. This creates a painful circle. Loneliness creates withdrawal. Withdrawal creates more loneliness. Then the loneliness is used as proof that withdrawal was necessary. Buddhist teaching does not ask us to deny this pain. Loneliness can affect the body, the mind, the will to participate in life. But Buddhist practice also reminds us that human beings are not meant to live only inside their own thoughts. Community matters, the Sangha matters. Even a person devoted to meditation depends on teachers, friends, and people who walk beside them. Inner peace is not a substitute for human connection, and human connection is not a substitute for inner peace. Both are necessary. A person with no inner life may expect others to rescue them from every quiet moment. A person with no community may pretend isolation is spiritual strength. The wiser path is to build in two directions: build a world around you and build a home within you. The outer world may include neighbors, friends, a spiritual community, people of different ages, a regular gathering, a shared activity, a place where your absence would be noticed. The inner home may include silence, meditation, prayer, reading, walking, creativity, the ability to sit with sadness without immediately running from it. These two forms of preparation support each other. When you are less afraid of being alone, you can approach others with less desperation. When you have real connection, solitude feels less like abandonment. The older man in the living room finally picks up his phone. He finds the name of an old friend they have not spoken in years. For several minutes he does nothing. He feels embarrassed. What if the friend does not answer? What if the conversation feels awkward? What if too much time has passed? Then he calls. The phone rings. Once, twice, a familiar voice answers. There is a pause, then the friend says, "I thought you had forgotten me," in one sentence. Both men discover the same truth. Neither had forgotten. Both had been waiting. Not every call will end this way. Some people will not answer. Some relationships cannot be restored. Some distance exists for good reasons. But one unanswered call does not mean every door is closed. Preparing for old age means learning to initiate connection. Before fear becomes a wall, it means being able to say, "I miss you. I would like to see you. I have been lonely." These words may feel uncomfortable, but they are more honest than accusation. They give another person something real to respond to. Connection also requires curiosity. Loneliness can make attention turn inward. A person speaks only about pain, repeats the same complaints, waits for others to provide comfort. But belonging grows when interest in other people remains alive. How are you? What has been difficult for you? What are you learning? What brings you joy now? To be heard matters. But listening is also a way of remaining connected to life. There is another reason people become isolated as they age. The world begins to feel unfamiliar. Technology changes. Language changes, customs change. Younger people communicate differently. It becomes tempting to say, "There is no place for me anymore." But belonging is not always found by waiting for the old world to return. Sometimes it is created by entering the changing world with humility, learning something unfamiliar, accepting that younger people may teach you, sharing experience without demanding control, remaining curious enough to continue participating. Old age becomes lonelier when the mind decides, "My time has passed," but as long as attention remains alive, some form of relationship is still possible. There is also a loneliness that no amount of company can completely remove. The loneliness of being disconnected from yourself. A person may spend decades avoiding their own mind. Work fills the day. Entertainment fills the evening. Noise fills every empty moment. Then life becomes slower. Some distractions disappear, and the person is left with thoughts they never learned how to meet. This is why inner practice matters before the house becomes quiet. Meditation does not guarantee that loneliness will disappear. It teaches you to notice loneliness without turning it into a final judgment about your worth. You can say loneliness is here instead of "I am alone because I am unworthy of love." You can feel sadness without making sadness the entire meaning of your life. You can sit in a quiet room and notice breath, rain, birds, the movement of the body. You may discover that silence is not always empty. Sometimes it contains the part of you that could never be heard beneath the noise. Preparing for loneliness does not mean expecting everyone to leave. It means refusing to build a future that depends entirely on other people noticing needs you never express. Call before silence turns into resentment. Join before isolation becomes identity. Listen before every conversation becomes only a demand to be heard, and learn to sit quietly before quiet becomes something you fear. Because one day, the house may become quieter than it is today, but the silence itself will not decide whether you are at peace. Much will depend on the relationships you have nurtured and the inner home you have built. And when the noise finally fades, another voice may begin to rise. The voice of memories you thought time had already buried. Some memories become quieter with time. Others do not. They remain beneath the surface, waiting for life to slow down. During the busiest years, work can cover them. Responsibility can cover them. Noise can cover them. There is always something that must be done, someone who needs attention, somewhere else for the mind to go. Then the days become quieter. The children no longer need daily care. Work takes up less space. The house contains longer periods of silence, and a memory that seemed far away begins to feel close again. An older man tells the same story whenever his family gathers. It happened more than 30 years ago. A business partner betrayed him. Money was lost. Trust was broken. Everyone at the table has heard the story before they know where it begins. They know how it ends. But as the man speaks, his face changes. His shoulders become tense. His voice becomes sharper. For a moment, he is no longer sitting at a family table. He is back in the room where the betrayal first became known. The event belongs to the past, but the body is living it in the present. This is why time alone does not always heal. Time can create distance. It can soften certain details. It can bring new experiences. But a wound repeatedly reopened does not receive the same chance to close. Every time the story is rehearsed with the same anger, the body prepares for conflict. The breathing changes, the jaw tightens, the mind gathers evidence. The person who caused the harm may no longer be present, but the suffering continues to occupy the room. People often say, "Time heals everything." It is a comforting sentence, but it is incomplete. Time does not offer an apology. It does not complete a conversation. It does not grieve on our behalf. It does not release resentment while we continue feeding it. And it cannot repair a relationship that both people keep waiting for the other person to repair first. A father has not spoken to his son for 12 years. The original argument is now difficult to remember clearly. Both remember the insults. Both remember feeling disrespected. Both have told the story many times, to friends, to family, and to themselves. Each person believes the other should call first. The father thinks, "I am still his father." The son thinks, "He never listened to me." Years pass. Birthdays come and go. Family gatherings become divided. Neither person feels peaceful, but making contact now seems harder than it did in the beginning. The silence has lasted so long that it has become part of the relationship, perhaps even part of identity. The father is no longer only a man who argued with his son. He has become the father whose son abandoned him. The son has become the child who was never understood. If either person softens, they may fear losing the story that proves they were wronged. This is one reason people hold pain for so long. Anger hurts, but it also provides structure. It tells us who was right, who was wrong, who should feel guilty, and who must make the first move. Without anger, something more vulnerable may appear: sadness, longing, regret, the recognition that years have been lost and cannot be returned. Buddhist teaching speaks about clinging. Most people understand this as holding tightly to pleasure, possessions, people, or status. But the mind can also cling to injury. It can hold resentment because resentment keeps the wound meaningful. Letting go may feel like saying, "What happened did not matter," or "What they did was acceptable." But release does not require denial. You can acknowledge that harm occurred. You can name it clearly. You can protect yourself from further harm, and still decide that hatred will not direct the rest of your life. Forgiveness does not always mean reconciliation. Some relationships are unsafe. Some people refuse responsibility. Some doors should remain closed. Compassion does not require returning to a place where harm will continue. Sometimes, forgiveness is simply the decision to stop allowing the person who hurt you to keep shaping every new relationship. You may still remember, you may still feel sadness, but you no longer build every reaction around the wound. There is a difference between carrying a scar and reopening it every morning. Unresolved pain often travels into places where it does not belong. A person betrayed in one relationship begins distrusting everyone. A parent who was controlled as a child becomes controlling with their own children. Someone who was never heard interrupts every conversation because silence feels dangerous. A person abandoned years ago tests every new relationship until the other person finally leaves. The wound then says, "See, I was right not to trust." Without awareness, pain begins creating the evidence it expects to find. This is how suffering moves through families, not always through dramatic cruelty. Sometimes through tone, suspicion, withdrawal, guilt, the inability to apologize, the refusal to allow anyone close enough to matter. Healing is not only something you do for yourself. It may protect the people who come after you from carrying pain they did not create. But healing is not always a beautiful reunion. Sometimes the person you need to speak to has died. Sometimes they will not listen. Sometimes contact would cause more harm in those cases. Repair may take another form. A woman carries guilt over the final argument she had with her sister. Her sister died before they could speak again. There was no apology, no final embrace, no chance to say, "I did not mean all of it." For years, the woman punishes herself. She replays every sentence, imagines different endings, tells herself that if she had been kinder, everything might have changed. But guilt does not rewrite the past. It only keeps taking life from the present. One afternoon, she writes a letter. She says what she wishes she had said. She admits where pride controlled her. She writes about the anger and the love underneath it. No one replies. Nothing in the past changes, but the act of honesty changes the way she carries it. She begins to understand that endless self-punishment is not the same as honoring her sister. The grief remains, but it no longer needs to become a prison. Sometimes healing means apologizing directly. Sometimes it means accepting an apology that arrives imperfectly. Sometimes it means making amends without demanding forgiveness. Sometimes it means speaking with a counselor, a spiritual teacher, or someone wise enough to help untangle what cannot be untangled alone. Sometimes it means placing a boundary where there was none. And sometimes it means grieving the relationship you wanted, instead of continuing to fight for a version that never truly existed. There is no single action that resolves every wound, but honesty can begin before certainty arrives. You can ask, what part of this pain belongs to what happened, and what part now belongs to the way I continue repeating it? What am I protecting by staying angry? What feeling would appear if the anger became quieter? Is there something I need to say? Something I need to hear? Something I need to stop expecting from a person who cannot give it? These questions should not be rushed. Some wounds require time, some require protection, some require professional support. But old age becomes more difficult when every unresolved burden is carried forward simply because facing it feels uncomfortable. A younger body may carry anger for years. An older body may feel the weight more clearly. The sleeplessness, the tension, the repeated conversations, the family distance, the energy required to keep proving that the wound still matters. The wound mattered. You do not need to keep suffering in the same way to prove it. You may not be able to change what happened, but you may still influence whether it continues speaking through the rest of your life, through the way you treat your children, the way you respond to affection, the way you remember yourself, the way you enter the years that remain. Preparing for old age includes deciding which emotional burdens should not be carried any further. One resentment, one apology, one grief, one relationship that needs a boundary, one truth you have avoided because it may change how you see the past. You do not have to resolve everything today. You may only need to stop rehearsing the same pain, as though repetition will produce a different ending. Because after years of holding memories, people often discover they are also holding many other things. A home, possessions, responsibilities, old identities, objects that seem to contain entire lives. And sooner or later, life asks whether we can release some of them before our hands are forced open. There is a house filled with objects. To one person it looks crowded, to another it looks like a life. A faded cup from a journey taken many years ago, a coat that belonged to someone who is no longer here, a drawer filled with letters, a broken clock that stopped working long ago, but still remembers a home that once felt full. The family sees things, the older person sees evidence. Evidence that the years happened, that the love was real, that the person they once were did not simply disappear. So when someone's, perhaps we should clear some of this away. The words may not sound practical, they may sound cruel. The older person may hear, your memories no longer matter. Your life has become a burden. We are preparing to erase you. This is why letting go can be so difficult. We do not hold only objects. We hold stories through them. We hold people, places, roles, and versions of ourselves that no longer exist anywhere else. A house becomes more than a building. It becomes the place where children once ran through the hallway, where meals were shared, where arguments happened, where someone stood at the door for the last time. To leave that house may feel like leaving an entire life behind. And yet old age often asks us to release what once gave us stability, a larger home, the ability to drive, a familiar neighborhood, responsibilities managed for decades, the authority to make every decision alone, the body we once recognized in the mirror, the people we believed would remain beside us. None of these losses are small. And no spiritual teaching should pretend that letting go means feeling nothing. Letting go is not becoming cold. It is not saying, this did not matter. It is not throwing away memory, love, or grief. Letting go means allowing something to matter, without demanding that it remain forever. This is where the teaching of impermanence becomes more than an idea. Everything changes. The flower opens, then fades. The child grows, then leaves home. The body strengthens, then weakens. A room fills with voices, then slowly becomes quiet. We often suffer not only because things change. We suffer because the mind keeps insisting, this must remain as it was. But life does not ask permission before it changes. A woman has lived in the same house for 50 years. The stairs are becoming difficult. The garden is too large. Repairs take more money and energy than before. Her children suggest moving somewhere smaller. She refuses. She says, "This is my home," and she is right. It is her home. Her resistance deserves understanding, but beneath the words, another fear may be hiding. If I leave this place, who will I be? Sometimes we are not holding the house, we are holding the person we were while living inside it. The young mother, the confident father, the years before illness, the years before someone died, the years when the family still gathered around the same table. The house makes those years feel near. Leaving may feel like admitting they are truly gone. This is why forced change can be so painful. The loss is not only physical, it is a confrontation with time. But there is a difference between being forced to release in crisis and choosing gradually while some control remains. A person who simplifies while still strong can decide what stays, what is given away, what story should be told, what object belongs with whom. A person who waits until illness or emergency may leave those decisions to frightened relatives in a hospital corridor or after death. Preparation does not remove grief, it preserves choice. A father owns an old watch. It is not especially valuable, but he wore it through decades of work. His son remembers seeing it on his wrist as a child. The father could leave it hidden in a drawer until it becomes part of an inheritance. Instead, he gives it to his son while he is still alive. He explains where it came from, what it witnessed, why it mattered. The watch changes hands, but the meaning does not disappear. It becomes shared. This is one of the gentler forms of letting go, not losing but passing forward, not erasing, but allowing memory to live somewhere new. The same lesson applies to responsibilities. Some people continue controlling every family decision long after the role has become exhausting. They organize every gathering, manage every problem, decide how everything should be done. They say, "No one can do it the way I do." Perhaps that is true, but perhaps no one has been allowed to learn. Letting go may mean trusting another person to do something differently. Not perfectly, not exactly as you would, but well enough. This can be hard when usefulness has been tied to identity. If someone else cooks the meal, plans the event, or manages the finances, what remains for you? Perhaps more than you expected. You may still offer wisdom, tell stories, notice what others miss, support without directing, remain present without controlling. A role can change, without the relationship losing its value. There are also things we carry that cannot be placed in a box. The need to be right, the need to be consulted, the need to receive gratitude for every sacrifice, the need to control how others remember us. These can become heavier than possessions. A person may leave behind a simple home, but also leave a family carrying years of fear, guilt, and unresolved conflict. This is why practical preparation is also emotional preparation. Organizing important information matters. Clarifying wishes matters. Making plans matters. Not because planning invites death, it does not. But silence can become a burden for those left to decide when nothing has been discussed. Family members must guess. One person believes they know what you wanted. Another disagrees. Grief becomes conflict. Love becomes responsibility without guidance. Speaking clearly is a form of care. It says, "I do not want my silence to become your confusion." The exact legal and medical steps will depend on where you live. Some decisions require qualified professional advice, but the deeper principle is simple. Say what matters while you are still able to say it. Tell people what dignity means to you, what kind of help you would accept, what you fear, what you do not want others to fight over, what objects carry meaning, and what can be released without guilt. Some people believe that speaking about death makes death feel closer. They avoid the subject, as though silence offers protection. But not speaking does not stop change. It only allows fear to make decisions later. Preparing is not surrender, it is participation. It allows you to shape part of the transition before transition removes some of your choices. Begin small. You do not need to empty the house. You do not need to abandon everything familiar. Choose one object. Hold it. Remember what it gave you, then ask, "Do I need to keep this in order to keep the love?" Perhaps the answer is yes. Then keep it, but perhaps the memory is already safe. Perhaps someone else can carry it now. Perhaps letting go of the object does not mean letting go of the person. Release one responsibility that no longer needs to belong only to you. Allow someone else to help. Tell one story attached to one meaningful possession. Write down one wish that your family should not have to guess. These are small acts, but small acts teach the hands to open. Because one day, life will ask every person to release more than objects, strength, roles, plans, people, and finally the body itself. If we have never practiced releasing anything, every change may feel like theft, but if we begin gently, we may discover that letting go does not erase what mattered. Love can remain. Even when form changes, meaning can remain. Even when an object leaves, dignity can remain. Even when control becomes smaller, and perhaps peace begins when we no longer need to hold everything, to know that our life was real. Yet every smaller act of letting go points toward one truth most people spend their lives avoiding. One day we will have to release life itself. Everyone knows that life will end, but most of us live as though that ending belongs to someone else. Another family, another generation, another body. We hear that someone has died. For a few moments, the world feels different. The argument that seemed so important becomes smaller. The message we kept postponing suddenly feels urgent. We look at the people near us and remember that they will not always be there. Sometimes we even make promises. We will slow down. We will be kinder. We will stop wasting time on things that do not matter. We will visit more often. We will say what needs to be said. Then ordinary life returns. The work continues. The phone fills with messages. The same irritations come back, and the clarity begins to fade. Death has not become less real. It has simply been placed far away again. A woman keeps a beautiful dress in the back of her closet. She bought it many years ago. Each time she sees it, she decides not to wear it. It is too special for an ordinary day. She will save it for a wedding, a celebration, a moment worthy of the dress. Years pass, the fabric remains untouched. Then one afternoon, her daughter finds it while helping organize the closet. The woman holds the dress and realizes that the special occasion she was waiting for was made from ordinary days she kept allowing to pass. Much of life is postponed in this way. The visit saved for next year. The apology delayed until the other person speaks first. The affection left unspoken because it feels embarrassing. The rest postponed until every responsibility is complete. The dream protected so carefully that it is never lived. We often believe important moments will announce themselves, but most do not. They arrive looking ordinary. A cup of tea, a walk, a quiet evening, someone sitting beside you, a phone call that could easily have been delayed again. By the time a moment becomes obviously precious, may already be ending. This is one reason Buddhist practice includes reflection on death. The practice is often called maranasati. It is not meant to create despair. It is not an invitation to imagine tragedy all day. And it does not ask us to become afraid of every passing hour. Its purpose is simpler, to remember that time is limited. So attention becomes more honest. When death is forgotten, the mind behaves as though there will always be another chance to listen, another chance to apologize, another chance to become generous, another chance to stop causing harm, another chance to begin the practice we already know we need. Remembering death brings those choices closer. Not with panic, with clarity. You may still become impatient, still make mistakes, still waste time, but somewhere inside a question begins to appear. Is this how I want to use a part of my life that I cannot recover? That question can change the weight of many things. The need to win every disagreement, the urge to prove that someone else is wrong, the habit of withholding love until conditions are perfect, the resentment carried long after it has stopped protecting anything, the endless attempt to impress people who may never understand you. These things do not disappear because death is remembered, but their cost becomes easier to see. A man spends years postponing a visit to his older brother. There is no great conflict between them, only distance, work, fatigue, the belief that another year will always be available. Then the brother becomes seriously ill. The visit finally happens beside a hospital bed. They talk, remember old stories, laugh, say some of the things they should have said earlier. The visit matters, but afterward, the man keeps thinking about all the ordinary years that were available before illness made the moment urgent. He had been waiting for the right time, but the right time had passed through his life many times, disguised as an ordinary afternoon. This is what death reflection can teach. Do not wait for life to become dramatic before you begin paying attention. The people beside you are already becoming memories. Your body is already changing. Your time is already being spent. This does not mean living in fear. Fear can waste the present too. It means living with more tenderness, speaking with greater care, holding anger a little less tightly, noticing when pride is costing more than the conflict is worth. There is also an ethical side to preparing for death. Most people know where their life is not aligned with their values. They know which words were too harsh, which apology has been delayed, which behavior continues causing pain, which truth is being avoided. But as long as time feels unlimited, change can remain theoretical. One day, I will become more patient. One day, I will stop treating that person badly. One day, I will admit what I did. But character is not built on the day we intend to change. It is built when change actually begins. Perhaps there is someone you need to apologize to. Perhaps there is a habit you keep defending, even though you know it harms others. Perhaps there is kindness you repeatedly postpone because it feels inconvenient. Perhaps there is something true that needs to be said carefully, before silence makes honesty impossible. Remembering death does not demand that you solve every unfinished part of life immediately. It asks whether you are willing to stop pretending that unlimited time is guaranteed. There is also mental preparation. Death is frightening, partly because it represents the final loss of control. The body weakens, plans end, possessions remain behind. Every role we used to define ourselves eventually falls away. A mind that has never practiced change may experience every loss as a personal attack. A mind that has practiced awareness may still feel fear, still grieve, still wish things were different. But it may be less likely to add another layer of suffering by insisting this cannot be happening. Acceptance does not mean liking what is happening. It means recognizing what has already arrived. So the remaining energy can be used wisely. Meditation can help with this, not because meditation makes death easy. It does not, but it teaches the mind to observe experience without immediately becoming lost inside it. Fear is here, sadness is here, the body is changing. This moment is difficult. These are honest statements. They are different from saying, "My life has no meaning because this is happening," or "I have lost all dignity because I cannot control what comes next." The final stage of life also deserves practical honesty. There may come a time when you cannot clearly explain what matters to you. Other people may need to help make decisions. If nothing has been discussed, they will have to guess. One person will believe they know what you wanted, another will disagree. Fear and grief may turn uncertainty into conflict. Speaking early can prevent some of that suffering. Tell trusted people what dignity means to you, what kind of support you would accept, what matters most if choices become limited, what you hope will not become a burden or argument. The exact documents and decisions will differ from one place to another. Professional guidance may be needed, but the deeper act is human. It is the willingness to say, "I know, I will not always be able to control everything. So while I can still speak clearly, I want to help the people I love understand." Preparing for death is not giving up. It is not saying that life is already over. It is refusing to make silence do work that honesty could do better. And something unexpected often happens when mortality is accepted more openly. Life becomes more immediate. The meal tastes more complete. The voice of someone you love feels less ordinary. The body, even with its discomfort, becomes something to appreciate rather than constantly criticize. The day no longer needs to become extraordinary before it deserves gratitude. The deepest preparation for old age is not learning how to avoid all loss. That cannot be done. It is becoming a person who can meet loss without losing the ability to love. Someone who can feel fear without allowing fear to close the heart. Someone who can release control without believing that human worth has disappeared. Someone who remembers that the ordinary day is already part of the life they once hoped to have. So wear the dress, make the call, offer the apology, begin the practice. Sit beside the person you keep assuming will always be there. Not because something terrible must happen soon, but because life is happening now. You were never promised control over how long it would remain. You were only given the chance to become present while it was still here. One day you may stand at the bottom of a staircase and notice that something once effortless now requires thought. You may place one hand on the railing, pause, listen to the body, then decide whether to continue. Nothing dramatic may have happened, no sudden disaster, no clear moment when life changed, only a quiet realization that the body is no longer moving through the world in the same way. Perhaps by then, the house will sound different. The voices that once filled it may live far away. The phone may ring less often. The work that gave your days structure may belong to someone else. The mirror may hold a face you still recognize, but not in the same way, and you may remember the years when life felt ordinary, the years when you believed there would be more time to care for the body, more time to speak honestly, more time to repair what was damaged, more time to reconnect with people, more time to learn how to live quietly, more time to release what had already become too heavy. It is easy to look back and imagine that everything should have been done differently, but regret is not the purpose of this reflection. No one lives with perfect awareness. Most people are busy trying to survive. They work, raise children, care for parents, carry responsibilities no one else fully understands. They postpone themselves, not always because they do not care, but because there is always something more urgent standing in front of them. So this is not a message about blame. It is a message about noticing what is still possible. You may prepare carefully and still become ill. You may build strong relationships and still lose people. You may save responsibly and still face hardship. You may meditate for years and still feel afraid when life changes. Preparation does not guarantee a gentle old age. No honest teaching can promise that. Its purpose is smaller and perhaps more useful. Preparation helps you meet uncertainty with fewer unfinished burdens. It gives you more chance to speak before silence becomes permanent. More chance to adapt before crisis removes choice. More chance to care for the body without demanding that it remain young. More chance to love people without turning love into possession. More chance to understand who you are when the roles that once defined you begin to fade. Old age is not a failure. It is not proof that life has betrayed you. It is part of the same movement that carried you from childhood into adulthood, into every identity you have known. The body that may one day need help is the same body that carried you through years of work, love, grief, and ordinary mornings. The hands that may become weaker are the same hands that once held a child, prepared a meal, opened a door, or comforted someone who was afraid. The voice that may become quieter still belongs to a person capable of honesty, compassion, and connection. Needing help does not remove dignity. Losing a role does not remove meaning. Being less visible does not make a life less real. Your worth was never held only inside your ability to produce, carry, control, or provide. Perhaps one of the hardest things about aging is discovering how much identity was built around those abilities. And perhaps one of the most freeing things is discovering that something remains when they change. Attention remains. The ability to listen remains. The ability to care remains. The ability to notice another person remains. The ability to meet an ordinary moment with gratitude may remain. This is where preparation can begin, not with a dramatic promise, not with a complete reinvention, with one honest action. A person schedules the appointment they have delayed. They call an old friend. They speak with their children about what the future may require. They stop waiting for someone else to apologize. First, they open a drawer, hold one object, tell its story, and decide whether it still needs to remain. They sit quietly for 10 minutes, without television, without the phone, without trying to escape the mind from the outside. Nothing seems transformed. The house looks the same, the body looks the same, the life is still imperfect. But the direction has changed, and direction matters. Because old age is not shaped only by major decisions. It is shaped through ordinary repetition, the way you speak when tired, the way you respond when someone disagrees, the way you treat the body when no one is watching, the way you ask for help, the way you carry old pain, the way you react when control becomes smaller, the way you love people who cannot promise to stay forever. These small actions become familiar, and what becomes familiar is often what the mind returns to when life becomes difficult. You are preparing your old age now, not perfectly, not completely, but quietly, through what you practice. Some things may already be too late to change. A person may be gone. An opportunity may have passed. A relationship may no longer be safe to repair. The body may already carry limitations that will not disappear. Wisdom does not require pretending otherwise. It asks a different question. Given what is still here, what can be cared for now? Perhaps you cannot recover the years that were lost, but you can stop losing this day to the same resentment. Perhaps you cannot become young again, but you can treat the current body with more respect. Perhaps your children cannot organize their lives around you, but you can love them without making every conversation a test. Perhaps work no longer gives you identity, but meaning can still be built through service, curiosity, friendship, and presence. Perhaps the house will become quieter, but quiet does not have to become emptiness. As long as awareness remains, something can still begin. You can learn to ask for help without apologizing for being alive. You can simplify without believing your memories are being erased. You can release one expectation that has made love heavy. You can stop using old pain to explain every new relationship. You can remember death. Not to make life smaller, but to stop postponing what makes life meaningful. One day, old age may take away some of the choices you have today, but today you still have choices. You can care for what is still strong. You can repair what is still reachable. You can speak. While the people you love can still hear your voice, you can release. While your hands are still able to open, you can practice stillness before silence arrives without invitation. You can build a life beyond the roles that will not last forever. Do not wait for old age to teach you through loss what awareness is already trying to show you. Begin before pride becomes isolation. Begin before silence becomes resentment. Begin before the future arrives carrying the weight of everything you kept avoiding. Begin while today still feels ordinary, because ordinary days are not empty. They are where your future is being formed. And perhaps the most compassionate thing you can do now is to stop abandoning the person you are becoming. That person is already on the way. They are waiting inside your habits, your relationships, your body, and every promise you continue placing inside the word later. So ask yourself, what am I still postponing that my future self is quietly asking me to begin today?